Hello underwater friends. In today's video we're going to talk about one of my favorite camera underwater, and it's a compact. So today we're going to talk about the Rx100 VII from Sony, and also the housing from Nauticam and some of the accessories you may want to have. So first, the camera, it's a 20.1 megapixel camera. It have a 1-inch sensor and the lens is the equivalent of 24 to 200. It have a 2.8 to 4.5 aperture. You can film 4K 30 frames per second or HD 120 frames per second. It also have a burst for photo that is 20 per second. The autofocus is very good. Actually, it's almost the same as the A1, which is the flagship from Sony. And one of the most important things, it have manual settings. The Nauticam housing is aluminum and it's very easy to close. The system is very reliable and very easy. If you take the Pro version, you're gonna have a stand with 2 handles with 1-inch ball on top, and also the vacuum system included. And like this, you're gonna be sure when you put your camera in the water that it's safe. All of the buttons are accessible with the housing, which is very nice underwater. To get the housing ready, it's super easy. You just attach your camera to the stand, put your camera inside, turn on the button for the sensor, you lock it easily, and then you make the vacuum, the green light will turn on, you put back the cap, and then you're ready to go. One of the inconvenience for this camera is that there is a range so big between 24 and 200 millimeters that you have to pick the port that you want to put depending on the dive. So either you're gonna do macro and then you have to zoom to 70 millimeter minimum, or you decide to put wide angle and then you have a different port. For wide angle, the glass is very nice. It's the WWLC and it's very sharp and it allows you to have super great wide angle and also close focus wide angle. To change from macro to wide angle, that's what you're gonna do. So first you take off the macro lens, then you put the adapter, and then you put on the WWLC. To use underwater, the housing with the camera in is a little bit negative, but if you want, you can put floaters like this. It's gonna be neutral, and then you can really hold it with one hand only. For macro, it's really highly recommended to use a diopter, because when you zoom, the distance of focus becomes quite long. At 24 millimeters, it's only about 8 centimeters, but if you zoom to 200, it becomes 1 meter. So it's very far. It's nice for shy subject, but if you want to do macro and super macro, then you put the diopter and then your focus range will be about 5 centimeters or so. So you can shoot very, very small animals. For the wide angle, of course, you have to change it in advance and plan to do wide angle dives, but then the wide angle lens is really nice. It's a glass dome and the optic of it is really, really sharp. So wide angle, close focus wide angle, no problem. And lots of light will get in. For the video, you can attach a tripod to it, but the problem is the tripod attach plus the balls, plus the arms that you're gonna put underneath will make it at minimum 5 centimeters above the bottom. So sometimes if you want to do macro, super macro, it's really too high, so it can be a problem. But if you want to shoot normal animals or even wide angle, then it's very good. To make your videos, you can use the S-Log mode. So you have S-Log2, S-Log3, and also H-Log. So depending on how you want to correct your shots, you can pick one or the other. I really recommend H-Log, which is very easy to correct, or S-Log2, because S-Log3, the problem is it's only 8-bit color, so to correct it's gonna be a little bit difficult. But anyways, with those settings, you're gonna have a very nice dynamic range. For the basic on-lens settings, I recommend you for photo to shoot JPEG and RAW. JPEG because it's easy to use, you can just post on social media and stuff. And also it can be a backup if there is a problem with the RAW file. And also RAW because sometimes you have a problem with a picture that is too bright someplace or too dark another one, and then it's much easier to do corrections. For the autofocus, for wide angle, I recommend you to put it on wide, and like this the camera will find the subject, especially if there is an eye or something. For macro though, I would recommend you to use the point setting, adjustable point, and actually to make it to the smallest size possible, and then pick the place you want to have sharp and take your composition and make your nice shot. For the video settings, Like we said before, you can have 4K 30, or you can also have Full HD 120. I really think depending on what you want to do on that day, you can pick one or the other. If you want, for example, to shoot macro and you may want to crop in your picture, it might be interesting to use 4K. Like this you can crop, even if later you want to export in Full HD. Like this you can crop 4 times, but you won't be able to make slow motion. If at the opposite, you want, for example, bigger animals and you want to have a nice slow motion on a shark or something like this, then it might be much better to use Full HD 120. Like this, you can have a slow motion of about 4 times. For the video exposure, you can set your speed to 1/2 times the frame per second, and then choose your aperture depending on what you want to do, if you want a blurry background or if you want a sharper image everywhere. So for example, if you want to shoot with 4K 30, you want to have 1/60 as a speed. And if you want to shoot Full HD with 120 frames per second, then you're gonna shoot at 1/250. Because 240 doesn't exist. You want to have the picture review for 2 seconds. Like this, you can easily review your pictures between 2 shots and you don't need to access any button. You take your picture, you review, you have 2 seconds, you see if it's bright enough or not, you see if it's sharp, and then you choose your composition and your settings for the next picture. For the super macro, you may want to use the manual focus, and like this, you can get the help of the focus picking. This way, you're gonna pick, for example, the eye of a shrimp or a fish, the rhinosaur of a nudibranch and stuff like this, and then make the focus on it to have the sharpest image possible. But in general, don't hesitate to review your pictures after each picture. Like this, you can see if it's right or not. There is nothing worse than to take a few pictures or video of an animal, and then when you go home to see that it's overexposed or that what you wanted to be sharp is not. So always make sure that you review before you decide that your picture is sharp and good enough. For the basic settings that you're going to use underwater, for macro, you want to use 1/100, you want to use f11, and for the speed 1/200. Why those numbers? ISO 100, because you don't want too much light to go in the camera. You're going to use the strobe, so f100 is enough. F11 is to make sure that everything that you shoot is sharp, or at least most of it. And then 1/200 or 1/250 is going to make sure that there is no motion blur. When you take macro shots, you're going to have a strobe or 2. So you really want the strobe to be lighting your subject, and like this, the background is going to be dark. And actually, if the background is water, the background is going to be completely black. To be sure of it, what you want to do is try to do a test shot without the strobes and see. If everything is black without the strobes, that means you're going to have a very nice contrast between the black background and your subject that is lit. For wide angle, of course, it's a little bit different. You want to use ISO 200. Like this, not too much noise, but a little bit more light that gets in than ISO 100. You want to use f5 to get lots of light in, but still a zone of sharpness good enough. And then for the speed, 1/125, which is going to give you the best blue possible. I hope you like this video. I will do a review of the Olympus TJ6 very shortly. So if you want to see it, don't hesitate to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. And also, if you want to come dive with us in Bali, you can come see us in Ahmed, and we organize workshops, photography and videography class, but we can also accommodate you if you just want to come take pictures as a safari or just diving one day with us. We organize dives for photographer, so with private spotter, like this you don't need to worry about your body or anything, but only to take the nicest shot with a nice spotter that is going to find you the best things. You can find the link of proof diving in the description. Bye bye, happy bubbles!